In 2014, it would seem that Blue Sky decided to give the Ice Age sequels a rest and made a follow-up to another previous film they have made with Rio 2. Set a few years after the events of the first movie, Blue and Jewel are now parents to 3 blue macaw chicks named Bia, Carla, and Tiago. Soon, while on an expedition in the Amazon jungle, Linda and Tulio come across the feather of a blue macaw, which they reveal on the news. And this inspires the macaws to go to the Amazon to find the other macaws alongside Rafael, Nico, and Pedro. When they find them, it turns out the macaws are being led by Jewel's long-lost father Eduardo, and Blue more or less becomes a fish out of water to the other macaws, since his domesticated mannerisms clash with their wild nature. Meanwhile, the head of an illegal logging company named Big Boss sets out to get rid of Linda and Tulio, since he's convinced that they will disrupt his progress of cutting down trees in the Amazon. Not just that though, for Nigel, the villain from the first movie, sets out to find Blue and kill him in revenge since he led to Nigel losing his flight ability after defeating him, and is helped by a talkative poison dart frog named Gabby and a silent anteater named Charlie. In January of 2012, one of the songwriters from the first movie, Sergio Mendes, blew the whistle about Rio getting a sequel and said, "I think the plan is for the movie to come 3 or 4 months before the World Cup. Fox has been talking about it, and it looks like it's going to happen. We're going to have a meeting, I think, next week, and Carlos is coming to town to tell us the story, and it looks like it's a go." 3 months later, in April of the same year, Deadline Hollywood reported that Jesse Eisenberg and Anne Hathaway would return to Blue Sky to voice Blue and Jewel again. Several months later, Variety revealed that Carlos Saldana had officially signed a 5-year deal with Fox that enables him to direct live-action and/or animated films, with Rio 2 being part of that agreement. During the making of the movie, screenwriter Don Reimer passed away from head and neck cancer on November 28, 2012, at the age of 51. Fox and Blue Sky unveiled the first teaser for the movie at the annual Las Vegas, Nevada CinemaCon on April 18, 2013, and less than a month later, on May 14th, the same trailer was released online worldwide. The voice of Roberto singer Bruno Mars was brought in after Carlos Saldana caught his performance on Saturday Night Live, and originally, Roberto was going to be a more tough and intimidating character before Mars offered his own personal touches to add on Roberto, like his personality and physical appearance. Piggybacking on Mars, his inclusion kept the Blue Sky tradition of giving some actors their first voiceover work in an animated film, alongside veteran actress Rita Moreno as Aunt Mimi and singer Janelle Monáe, who sung the song What Is Love for the film, as the voice of a doctor seen in Nigel's flashback, as well as the first voice acting credits of kids who play Blue and Jewel's children, Amanda Stenberg as Bia, Rachel Crow as Carla, and Pierce Gagnon as Tiago. Other story elements that were ultimately scrapped were that Fernando, the boy from the first movie, was going to accompany Linda and Tulio to the Amazon, an earlier plot draft of Bia, one of Blue and Jewel's chicks, being afraid to fly, and the climactic battle between the birds and loggers was going to include a giant forest fire. One of the posters for the movie featured a giant number 2 made up of 150 blue macaws. This was made to be a reference to how many Spix macaws are still living in the world. Also, the character of Charlie was named after famous silent film star, Charlie Chaplin. For the film's music, John Powell came back to direct the score alongside Mendes once again. The songs for the film were released on a soundtrack on March 25, 2014 by Atlantic Records, and Powell's score was released on a separate soundtrack disc on April 15th of the same year. Similar to the first movie, Rovio promoted Rio 2 by releasing 3 out of 4 Angry Birds shorts based on the film. Rio 2 had an international release on March 20th, 2014, with the premiere being held in Miami, Florida in the United States, before it got a wider release of April 11th a few weeks later. The film received mixed reviews from critics who praised the animation, songs, and voice acting, but critiqued the film's story, writing, and characterization. It received a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. Writer for Screen Daily, Mark Adams said, "As a delightfully bright and breezy bit of 3D animated entertainment, Rio 2 hits the sweet spot. and will no doubt be a box office hit with its blend of good-natured jungle adventure, songs, and gags. The only frustrating thing is that it feels very much like a by-the-numbers sequel, lacking the verve, ebullience, and left-field humor that made 2011's Rio such a surprise hit. Despite this, it did manage to earn a lot of money at the box office, earning a total of $498.8 million against its budget of $130 million. It opened number 2 on its North American release date, falling behind Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Accompanying the movie was a short based on the then upcoming DreamWorks movie Home called Almost Home. Fun fact, Home was supposed to be released in November of 2014, but it got pushed back a few months later in March of 2015. Rio 2 also had promotion backing from businesses like Burger King, General Mills, Liberty Travel, and Conagra Foods. The film earned a Hollywood Film Award for Best Song with What Is Love, and was also nominated for a British Academy Children's Award, a few Annie Awards, a Kids' Choice Award, a People's Choice Award, a Visual Effects Society Award, and What Is Love was also nominated for a Satellite Award for Best Original Song. 3 months later, on July 15th, Rio 2 was released on Blu-ray and DVD, and a copy exclusively released in the store. Target came with a blue plush toy. A couple of months later, on November 4th, a limited sing-along edition of the film was released. Now, going into my personal thoughts about the movie, well, at first, when I saw it, I thought it was passable, but after some time, I now view Rio 2 as the weakest Blue Sky movie to me, because there are so many things about it that did not sit well with me. Like how Jewel basically strong-arms her family into going into the Amazon without considering how they feel about it. Some scenes dragging on so long that they become boring, and so many plots happening all at once that you might forget about one while watching the movie. To anyone who likes Rio 2, that's fine if you do, and I'll admit there are some things about the movie that I like, but I just feel that Rio 2 is a textbook example of how sequels can drag a movie franchise down. Before I talk about the next movie, I'd like to talk about a comic strip writer by the name of Charles Monroe Schultz and his most famous creation in the world of Peanuts, a series which involves the misadventures of a group of young children, most importantly, a young, socially awkward boy named Charlie Brown. The comics were well liked by many people for their slice-of-life charm and relatable human characters, and it soon caused Peanuts to grow into a franchise that includes many TV specials, some TV show adaptations, and a few theatrical films. And we are here today to talk about one of the most famous theatrically released Peanuts movies with, well, the Peanuts movie. When a new girl with red hair moves into Charlie Brown's neighborhood, he soon develops a crush on her and wants to be noticed by her. On the advice from Lucy, he attempts to impress her with various attention-grabbing stunts like putting on a magic show for a school talent competition, getting the highest score on an aptitude test, and writing a book report when both of them are paired together. However, with how much rotten luck Charlie gets, it's safe to say that you should expect the worst. Meanwhile, Charlie Brown's pet beagle, Snoopy, gets his own side plot where he's inspired by Linus's toy plane to write a story about him as a fierce pilot wanting to take down the villainous Red Baron. The idea started in 2006 when the son of Charles Schultz, Craig, came up with the idea for the Peanuts movie and presented it to his son, screenwriter Brian Schultz. Craig pitched the idea to various studios, with the only condition that he remain in control, even once stating, "We needed to have absolute quality control and keep it under Dad's legacy. You can't bring people in from the outside and expect them to understand Peanuts." In October of 2012, Blue Sky took up the project, with Steve Martino directing the movie due to planning to stay true to the original material spirit like he did when he directed Horton Hears a Who a while back. Martino commented on the film's plot, "Here's where I lean thematically. I want to go through this journey. Charlie Brown is that guy who, in the face of repeated failure, picks himself back up and tries again. That's no small task. I have kids who aspire to be something big and great, a star football player or on Broadway. I think what Charlie Brown is, what I hope to show in this film, is the everyday qualities of perseverance. To pick yourself back up with a positive attitude. That's every bit as heroic as having a star on the Walk of Fame or being a star on Broadway. That's the story's core. This is a feature film story that has a strong dramatic drive and takes its core ideas from the strip. Martino and the animators spent over a year researching Schultz's original drawing style to help translate the original hand-drawn design to change it into CGI. Blue Sky soon got the rights to use archival recordings for the original voice of Snoopy and Woodstock, Bill Melendez, and also got the rights to archive music from previous Peanuts specials. Originally, Snoopy's siblings were supposed to be his mechanic crew during his fantasies, and was even planned on being the central character of the movie, with Charlie Brown taking up the role as a secondary character. Speaking of Charlie Brown, the people at Blue Sky wanted to give him a full head of blonde hair, but found that he looked weird this way and stuck to his trademark baldness. In keeping with the spirit of Peanuts, the off-screen adult characters' voices are represented by a trombone with a plunger mute, which were provided by New Orleans jazz musician Trombone Shorty. Speaking of the cast, you might have noticed that, apart from Shorty and Melendez, alongside Kristen Chenoweth, who played Gabby in Rio 2, as Fifi, Snoopy's love interest, nearly all of the cast in the movie is composed of child actors, which was most likely a huge way for Blue Sky to keep their tradition of giving some actors their first voiceover role. On January 8, 2013, Lee Ann Brodsky took up the job as managing director of Peanuts Worldwide and took control of global deals for the movie. 2 months later, in April of that year, Fox announced that the Peanuts movie would be released in 3D, and a few months later in October, it was announced that Paul Feig would also produce the movie. The film's score was done by Christopher Beck, who grew up with the original specials and drew inspiration from the original composer of past Peanuts media, Vince Guaraldi. In April of 2015, 75% of the movie's animation was done, with some of the footage scheduled to appear at CinemaCon in Las Vegas. The Peanuts movie had its premiere in New York City on November 1st, 2015, and was released 5 days later on November 6th in the United States on 3,897 screens. The release celebrates the 65th anniversary of the comic strip, as well as the 50th anniversary of the TV holiday special, A Charlie Brown Christmas. The movie was originally supposed to be released on November 25th, 2015, but was rescheduled to November 6th in 2012. The film was released under the title Snoopy and Charlie Brown the Peanuts Movie in the United Kingdom on December 18th, 2015. The Peanuts movie received positive reviews from critics and audiences, earning an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, with praise being given to the animation, voice acting, and staying true to the original source material, but got some minor criticism for not being very ambitious. For the box office, the Peanuts movie grossed $130.2 million in the United States and Canada, and $116 million in other countries, earning a worldwide total of $246.2 million against its original budget of $99 million. The movie received nominations for the Annie Award for Best Animated Feature, the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Animated Feature, and was the first Blue Sky movie to be nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Feature Film, but lost to Pixar's Inside Out. Also, an animated short based on the upcoming Ice Age film, Collision Course, called Cosmic Scratastrophe, was shown before the movie was released in theaters. A video game based on Snoopy's subplot from the movie, titled Snoopy's Grand Adventure, was released on November 3rd, 2015, for Xbox 360, Nintendo 3DS, Wii U, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, and published by Activision. The Peanuts movie was eventually released on digital platforms on February 12, 2016, before being released on DVD, Blu-ray, Blu-ray 3D, and 4K Ultra HD a month later on March 8th. It debuted at the top of the home media sales chart for the week ending on March 13th. The song that came out of the movie, Better When I'm Dancin' by Meghan Trainor, was also a huge hit, as it earned a #1 spot on the US Bubbling Under Hot 100 Singles chart. Now getting into my personal feelings for the movie, I absolutely love it. I enjoy the slice-of-life storytelling, the beautiful animation, and the characters. I find it to be my favorite Blue Sky film. I know I said Ice Age 4 was, but I actually meant to say that it was my favorite Ice Age film. The Peanuts movie beats it as my favorite film from the studio. It was also the first Blue Sky film that came out when I first started attending college. The Peanuts movie is a prime example of what happens when you take something popular by the general public and make it into an enjoyable film by staying true to what made the original source material so good. In April of 2016, Blue Sky released an Ice Age Easter special called Ice Age: The Great Eggscapade, where Sid decides to start a babysitting service by looking after other animals' eggs. However, the eggs get stolen by a vengeful Squint, and the protagonists are helped by Squint's brother Clint to get the eggs back. 3 months later, it would seem Blue Sky once again decided to make another Ice Age movie. Ice Age: Collision Course. Peaches is planning to get married to an energetic mammoth named Julian, which makes Manny rather anxious, especially when Peaches and Julian later say that they plan on traveling after their wedding. However, a meteor is about to collide with Earth due to Scrat messing around with a spaceship. The animals are soon helped by their old friend Buck to find a way to prevent the comet from crashing on Earth, while unknowingly being stalked by a family of dino birds who have a grudge against Buck for stopping them from stealing eggs from other dinosaurs. The conception of Collision Course came from a scene in the first Ice Age movie where Manny, Sid, Diego, and Roshan were walking through an ice cave, and they spotted a spaceship that was encased in ice. The one scene that was the most complicated for the people at Blue Sky was the scene where Buck retrieves an egg that was stolen by the dino birds while singing Figaro from The Barber of Seville, as they made that scene entirely in one frame with no cuts whatsoever, and the scene went on for nearly 2.5 minutes. It was one of the first scenes that went into production, but also one of the last to exit production due to how difficult it was to create the scene, since it took a week to make 3 or 4 seconds of the scene. Recording sessions for Ice Age 5 took place in Los Angeles, since a majority of the actors who have appeared in the film reside there. Co-directors Michael Thurmeyer and Galen Tanchu would take turns traveling to LA to supervise the recording sessions. Jesse Tyler Ferguson, the voice of the Shangri-Lama, was offered the role after the filmmakers saw his performance as Mitchell Pritchett on the sitcom Modern Family, which kept up the Blue Sky tradition of giving some actors their first voice role in an animated film, alongside Max Greenfield and Stephanie Beatriz as the voices of Roger and Gertie, 2 of the Dino Birds, Adam Devine as Julian, and so many others. Ferguson blew his voice out on the first day of recording due to excessively yelling. After taking a few days off to rest, he came back later to finish his lines. Ferguson soon admitted that he struggled after hearing his voice come out of the Shangri-Lama's mouth, and because of that, he stopped watching interviews of himself on TV because he found them embarrassing. A promotional poster was shown in June of 2015 at the Licensing Expo and revealed the movie's full title, Ice Age: Collision Course. The film's score was made by John Debney, who replaced John Powell from the previous movies due to Powell being busy with other movies. However, most of Powell's score from Dawn of the Dinosaurs was included, alongside David Newman's score from the first movie. Ice Age: Collision Course premiered at the Sydney Film Festival on June 19, 2016, and was released in the United States on July 22, 2016, which happened to be the voice of Sid, John Leguizamo's birthday. Collision Course got negative reviews from critics and audiences, with viewers slamming how unoriginal the story was and how stale the humor was, with most people believing that Collision Course was a prime example of how the franchise has run its course and should stop. Despite this, the film grossed out $408.5 million worldwide against a $105 million budget, grossing below expectations from its American release, but faring better internationally. Jessie J, the voice of Brooke, provided the song My Superstar for the movie. Collision Course was released on DVD, Blu-ray, Blu-ray 3D, 4K Blu-ray, and digital download nearly 3 months later on October 11, 2016. Special features include a new short film titled Scrat, Spaced Out, which is just made up of nearly all of Scrat's scenes from the film, with the ending showing him being abducted by female squirrel-like aliens. Despite all these drawbacks, the movie is best known for being the first movie to be the 5th installment of a franchise to get a theatrical release. Now, for my thoughts on Ice Age 5. I actually found it to be middle of the road at best. I found it to be the weakest Ice Age film as much as anyone else, but I didn't think it was too bad. Ice Age Collision Course is a textbook example of how relying on a movie franchise to keep up business can destroy a franchise's charm, and it seemed like Blue Sky was running out of steam, which would ring true some years later.